Nigeria's annual inflation rate surged for an 11th straight month to 12.82% in July of 2020 from 12.56% in the previous month. It was the highest rate since March of 2018 as food prices jumped 15.48%, the most in over 2 years on the back of continued border closures and the lingering effects of the coronavirus-induced supply disruption. On a monthly basis, consumer prices were up 1.24%, following a 1.21% increase in the previous month. Thanks for joining us today on the program this morning on TV and Business Daily. I am Chiwendo Osisiago, and today we shall be discussing on Nigerians' rise in inflation rates and hike in food prices. Before we go on that discussion, let's look at what is happening in the business world. Key players in the nation economic, including the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, UMANDI, said the government may not be able to service rising debt and fund budgets as the economy shrunk by 6.1%. The National Bureau of Statistics and UMANDI disclosed that Nigerians' gross domestic product contracted by minus 6.10% year-on-year in real terms in the second quarter of 2020, ending the 3-year trend of low but positive real growth rates recorded since the 2016-2017 recession. The NBS disclosed this in its GDP report for the second quarter of 2020. The decline was attributed to the significantly lower levels of both domestic and international economic activity during the quarter, which resulted from nationwide shutdown efforts amid containing the COVID-19 pandemic. The Central Bank of Nigeria has said it is eliminating foreign exchange abuse and other practices by dealers which affect goods purchased by the average Nigerian consumers. The CBN said this in a circular on Monday to all authorized dealers and the general public, which was signed by the Director, Trade and Exchange Department, Dr. O.S. Nachi, and entitled Destination Payments for all forms of letters of credit and other forms of payment. Najin said authorized dealers are hereby directed to desist from opening of Form M whose payments are routed through a buying company, agent, or any other third parties. It said the directive was part of continued effort by the CBN to ensure prudent use of the nation's forex resources and eliminate incidents of over-invoicing, transfer prices, and double handling charges, and affordable costs ultimately passed to the average Nigerian consumers. The Nigerian equity market sustained its positive outlook on Monday as the Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index rose further by 0.02%. Market watchers attributed the development to sustained investors' confidence as bargain hunt and leverage on the value stock. However, the market spread closed flat with 15 gainers as against 15 losers. The All-Share Index increased by 7.25 basic points or 0.02% from 25,221.87 BPS last Friday to 25,229.12 BPS, while the market's capitalization of equities appreciated by 3 billion naira to close at 13.16 trillion naira from 13.16 trillion naira. On the activities chart, the premium subsector dominated in volume with 70.29 million shares traded in 1,777 deals. In all, investors exchanged a total of 251.18 million shares in 3,737 deals on Monday. Further analysis of the day's trading showed that UPL PLC led the gainers chart with 9.68% to close at 1 naira 36 kobo per share. Gas, transmission, distribution, and other constraints made Nigerian power sector to lose about 468.4 billion naira between January and August 21 this year. Latest documents and the industry performance have shown. Also, the constraints in the sector stalled the production of a total of 33,122 megawatts of power during the 8-month period. Documents on the monthly performance of the sector since the beginning of this year obtained by correspondents from the Federal Ministry of Power and Presidency showed that how the industry had been losing billions of naira since January. In January, for instance, the sector lost 56.41 billion naira revenue, while in February and March this year, its revenue dipped by 54.96 billion naira and 65.56 billion naira respectively. For the month of April, May, June, and July, the power sector constrained revenues were 64.635 billion naira and 61.601 billion naira, 61.771 billion naira, and 63.207 billion naira respectively. And that's the business update on Television Nigerian. I am Chirende Osisiago. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
My name is Chirende Osisiago, presenter Television Nigerian Business Daily. In a globalizing world, ours is to keep you engaged, informed, and educated on contemporary happenings in the business world. We therefore command a special audience of business-minded viewers who are eager to know more about business. I mean, your business. Why don't you take advantage of our special affordable offer to let the world know about your concepts, your goods, and of course, your services? You can call us on 080-3071-6959 or 070-3234-9054. You can also visit us at Television Nigerian in Guzapi, Abuja, and follow us on all our social media handles on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Your business is our concern.
TV and Business Daily. Like I said earlier, we shall be discussing on Nigerians' rising inflation rates and hiking food prices. My guest is here in the studio is a public affairs analyst and the President League of Africa Development Student Leads Africa, Comrade Morgan Ocheko. You're welcome to the TV and Business Daily.
Good morning and thank you very much for having me here this morning.
It's good to have you. And don't forget that you can actually join us on this part of our conversation today by calling the number scrolling on your screen. Okay, my first question for you today is to layman's language. What exactly is inflation? A lot of people don't really understand what inflation means. They just used to hear inflation. So what exactly is inflation?
Inflation can be defined in more than one terms, depending on who is defining it and for what purpose it is being defined. But we know that generally inflation can be defined as the measure of rate of the rise in the price of goods and services within an economy, or rather it can be defined as a decline in the value of a particular currency that is mostly used within an economy. And again, not forgetting our primary definition of inflation when we were taught in schools, that inflation is when there is an excessive circulation of money within an economy, thereby causing a decline in the value of such money within that economy, and then in turn the rises in prices of goods. So depending on how or who is defining it, but the bottom line is two things are certain. That is, increase in the price of goods and commodity, and then devaluation in currency.
If you're looking at Nigerian's inflation now, as at July, it is 12.82% from 12.56%. How will this have the effect? What effect will it have on the Nigerian economy? What effect will it have on Nigerian businesses and on the ordinary man?
Of course, at 12.56%, it was already bad, and then a further surge could only hamper further progress. Okay. But again, we can understand why this is so. This is basically so in Nigeria in this year 2020 for two reasons, basically. The one was as a result of the closure of Nigerian borders towards the end of last year, that have also cut short goods that comes in via our borders, and then resulting in higher demands for already available goods within the society, where you have consumer getting ready to pay whatever amount of money for whatever goods that is available at that particular point in time. And then secondly, another factor is the fact that what is common now, which is COVID-19, is a pandemic that have actually caused serious economic crisis globally.
Okay.
So it also has taken its turns.
I think we have a caller now. Hello? Hello? Hello, good morning. Please, what's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is John Ochai, calling from Central Abuja.
Okay, so what's your contribution? Sorry, we can barely hear you. Please, can you speak louder?
Okay. I honestly speaking, what is really happening in our society, in this part of the world, is as a result of failure of fighting the economy from the onset. Because over time, we should have ought to push our economy, invest and diversify the economy in such a way that we're able to build a robust economy that will do more for less of exporting our products from the diversification as it was export country, not an import country.
Okay.
The reason why we experience the high inflation, I can call it a high inflation, not a full demand inflation, not even a cost inflation. Because the reason why I call it hyperinflation is as a result of when government tightens the economy, more money is being given back to the government, and money is not in the hands of the people to provide whatever they have in their port, to buy whatever goods and services they require. Because as it is right now, VAT has been increased to 7.5%. If you look at fuel in the pump price is 48 naira the pump liter. And then if you look at the agriculture, the transport sector, there is a hike. And then if you look at the minimum wage that we are receiving, or the government have claimed that that is what they will pay to the people or to the labor force in Nigeria, is just a template, but it's not realistic. With the pandemic and with the problem we have at our disposal, that there's so much money in the confines of the government. And for that reason, it builds up the inflation, and the inflation will continue to rise because you will have much money chasing a tribute without balancing the scale. These are the reason why we have higher products in the market, and then we have higher money chasing those products in the market without a proper balance scale.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. John Ochai. Okay, Comrade Morgan Ocheku, you've heard what Mr. John said. He really emphasized on the need for us to diversify the economy. What exactly can you say more to that?
Of course, diversifying the economy can be good for an economy, but does it provide solutions to inflation? And if you want to look at it critically, I want to say no, it doesn't. Now, if you diversify your economy, you want to have a very robust system in place. But if you are talking about inflation, I want to agree partly with him on the part of the government having implemented very poor economic policies in the past, which has brought us to the level we were. And then again, if you look over, if you have watched over time, you realize that there's no proper check. There has not been proper check in place, like when it comes to price control. And then tax waiver for citizens, another great boost in this regards. You cannot continue to hold on to what it is with regards to tax, and then you keep putting up prices for goods and services. It doesn't work that way. And then funds that are actually roaming around within the economy are channeled wrongly into the wrong places. And those are measures that can actually call for inflation. That is, when you misplace priority, you tend to want to start all over again. And you begin to pay for what you ought to have paid for long before now, and stuff like that. So generally, on the side of the government, I want to relate it to poor economic policies in the past. Okay. But when you diversify economy, you can actually diversify your economy and still have high demands for goods and services. You can actually diversify your economy and still have excess cash in circulation. Sure. And those are parameters for inflation.
Okay, now back to what you were saying. You're talking about the rising inflation rate and the effect it will have on the Nigerian economy.
Pardon?
Back to what you were discussing before the call came in. You were talking about the effect of this rising inflation rate on the Nigerian economy. So continue from where you stopped.
Okay, so we're talking about the negative effect this has had on the Nigerian economy, yeah. And I attributed them to two basic factors. That is the COVID-19 pandemic, definitely. And as a result of the closure of Nigerian borders late last year to early 2020, which I want to believe is economically driven, because we were meant to understand that some businesses that were happening at the borders are quite detrimental to the Nigerian economy. So I want to believe it's a measure put in place by the government to actually correct those anomalies within the border that will in turn put a growth to the economy. But again, the rising in the rate of inflation will always have very negative effects on whatever economy in several ways. One of such ways is it's call for excessive spending and then less savings. I say this because for the fear that the prices of goods will tend to keep increasing, yeah. You want to begin to buy and stock so that the money you already have in place does not lose its value further in the future. So what does that tell? It discourages the culture of savings. That is, whatever you have saved for future purposes, you go to withdraw and then you want to begin to invest them. It is not very, very good for an economy when savings are not encouraged. And then again, it also reduces employment growth. Employment growth in the sense that when a system is being hit by inflation, and then employers begin to call for employees to take pay cuts and stay within a particular job. A lot of person tends not to agree to doing that, because you don't ask me to take a pay cut when there's already an excessive increase in the price of products and services. A lot of people will tend to leave their job, and in turn it will leave such system highly unemployed. So it is basically not good. It has several negative effects on an economy.
So to you, how long do you think this will persist?
Yeah, the issue with the high rate of inflation in Nigeria has been there over time, and like I said before now, is as a result of poor economic policies. Mm-hmm. This will continue to persist if the economic policy thinkers do not put their hands on deck to actually work out means to correct those anomalies that have actually resulted into this high inflation rate. This will persist. But again, we don't expect this to just, even if every hand comes on deck, we don't expect this to just disappear overnight, because it is a damage that has done over a period of time. So it will take a very gradual process in the very right direction for it to fizzle out. But the process is going to be gradual, depending on the willpower to actually do what is right.
Okay, now speaking on the hike in food prices, what exactly can you say? Because last month, the price of rice increased from 700 to 1,000 naira, of which it would be 400 naira like previous month, but now is sold at 1,000 naira. Talking about gari too in the market, if you go to the market now, you want to buy probably one model of gari. Now it is like 350, 400, of which we buy it like around 150 naira per model. So now what can you say about the hike in food prices?
Well, the hike in food prices is naturally expected at this period of time. Okay. Again, with what the world just went through with the COVID-19 pandemic. it has affected global economy in terms of production. You and I are aware that most economies were on lockdown, and whenever you have economies being on lockdown, that means there seems to be a halt in production.
Yeah.
And whenever you don't have goods and services produced into the society, the demand for such products or goods tends to hike. People will be willing to pay more for what is available.
Yeah.
So it is natural that these prices, the hike in prices of those commodity is expected at this period in time. And I want to also believe that this is so globally, not just in Nigeria. Because this is the pandemic is global. It has hit every economy, and we expected that things are going to happen like this. And then I heard you made mention of rice. You and I know that there was a policy of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria sometimes last year to put a stop to importation of rice.
Yeah.
Of course, when that happens, we all will have to depend on the local market to be able to survive. It will also take them some period of time to be able to meet up with what the demand are for the people. So within those period, it is also bound that we experience this hike in the prices of rice and then other commodities.
All right, thank you so much, Comrade Morgan Ocheko. Let's take a quick break, then after the break, we'll continue with our discussion. So stay with us.
My name is Chiwendu Osisiago, presenter Television Nigerian Business Daily. In a globalizing world, ours is to keep you engaged, informed and educated on contemporary happenings in the business world. We therefore command a special audience of business-minded viewers who are eager to know more about business. I mean, your business. Why don't you take advantage of our special affordable offer to let the world know about your concepts, your goods, and of course, your services? You can call us on 080-3071-6959 or 070-3234-9054. You can also visit us at Television Nigerian in Guzapi, Abuja, and follow us on all the social media handles on Facebook, YouTube, and of course on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Your business is our concern.
Thanks for staying with us on TVN Business Daily. And we've been discussing on Nigerian rising inflation rates and hiking food prices. My guest is here in the studio. He is the President, League of African Development Student, East Africa, and the public affairs analyst, Comrade Morgan Ocheko. Okay, now we've been discussing on this Nigerian rising inflation rate. Now, what are the consequences it will have on the economic edge?
Of course, the consequences this is bound to have on the Nigerian economy is quite enormous. It's enormous in the sense that if you want to look at the masses, from the angle of the masses, of course, a lot of persons are bound to suffer through this, especially when you have proper hike in the prices of goods and services, and then there's no increase in what comes into your pocket. You tend to suffer for it the more. We also want to look at especially the unemployed class, who doesn't even have any stable source of income, but will have to also pay about amount that people who are employed, people the high and mighty in the society pay for. So it will also have that negative effect on those persons. And of course, you know, when you have such effects, it tends to affect your output. And whenever your output is affected, it also goes, is like a ripple effect. It in turn affects what happens within the economy. Because whether we like it or not, every individuals on the street have a role to play in the growth of an economy. And whenever we are not motivated to do what we ought to do, of course, it will take a toll on the economy. So the effects are so very enormous. It also affects a nation in the fact that it brings about increase in the cost of borrowing, because for a project you have to borrow a specific amount of money to execute, and because there is an excessive increase in the cost of product now, you need to get more to be able to execute what ordinarily would have executed at a low income, at a low price, sorry. Mm-hmm. You'll probably be borrowing about 2 or 3 times to execute it because of the rise in inflation within that particular economy. So in whatever way we want to look at it, it has very, very adverse effect on the economy of a country.
Okay, thank you. Now you've spoken on the effect it will have on the economy. How do you think an ordinary man can actually survive this period of living?
Whichever way we want to state this,
okay,
it is going to hit us.
Definitely.
It is definitely going to hit us because it is not what is controlled by the ordinary man on the street. For us to be able to get whatever positive out of this, it has to come from the part of the government, that is the economic think tank of the government has to come up with policies that will actually encourage deflation to an extent. So the masses are just going to suffer for it, except for those, there's no exception here, because even if you intend to increase your output, ordinarily you are still going to pay this money. The only instance is that you will not feel it because you want to believe a lot of cash is coming into your pocket. Okay. But what if you are paying 1,000 naira for what you should pay 200 naira for? Whether you like it or not, it has taken a toll of 800 naira on you, no matter the amount of money that comes into your pocket. So I think it can only be corrected not by the masses but by the authorities that be.
As the government. Okay, now, so what's the way forward now for us?
The way forward is to look within the system, look at indices that have actually caused this inflation, try to balance the poles, and then let's our economic policy thinkers be up. We could also borrow leads from countries of the world that have actually gone deep within inflation and are able to correct such anomalies. We could look at countries like India. We could look at countries like Austria and the rest of them. They were at a point in time in such quagmire and they came out of it gloriously. So there's no harm in borrowing leads from them if we feel we have run out of idea to actually cope this menace. And then again, the government should also encourage tax waiver for the masses. Because if you are not able to control those measures, one thing that we need to understand is inflation, or rather the high rate of inflation causes more inflation.
Okay.
Yeah, it results to much more inflation because whenever there tends to be a hike in the price of whatever goods and services, the demand for such goods increases.
Yeah.
You understand?
Like a continuous process.
So it's a continuous process. So if you are not able to tackle it at a particular point in time, you don't expect it to drop at any particular time. So the government should be up and doing. And then there should also be, like I will always say, the willpower should also be there for people to want to do the right thing at the right time. Mm-hmm. And then the government should also try as much as possible to avert misappropriation. So those are basic indices that actually result into increasing the rate of inflation.
All right, thank you. Someone sent his contribution on the video saying that additionally, an increase in money supply in an economy also leads to inflation. With more money available to individuals, positive consumer sentiment leads to higher spending. This increases demand and leads to price rises. Money supply can be increased by the monetary authorities either by printing and giving away more money to the individuals or by devaluing and reducing the value of or the currency. In all such cases of demand increase, the money loses its purchasing power. He's talking about giving up money to people, to individuals.
Yes, it's still within the confines of what we're discussing here. Yeah, you understand? But the truth is, how do you give out this money to these individuals? Do you give out this money as a form of bonanza, or is it the money truly in? You understand? Yeah. You cannot come to a system and say because you want to control inflation and I actually, by the virtue of my output, in 1,000 naira and say you want to give me 200 naira because that's you understand? So I think it is when you begin to put excessive money out there for just no reason, like I say, and which is part of what I mentioned earlier, which is a misappropriation. Those are things that result into this high inflation rate. So I want to agree completely with
Mr. John.
Mr. John, or rather, yeah.
Mr. John, thank you for your contribution. So finally now, Comrade Morgan, check us. What's your final take, your final message?
Well, my final message at this point in time is I want to state with regards to the surge we have within the last couple of months. I want Nigerians to understand and also keep our peace still, because whatever happened within the past 2, 3, 4 to 5 months is normal, that it should happen because of what the globe was faced with within this period of time. And it's not only happening in Nigeria. You could look at the economy of other countries and you understand that the pandemic has actually taken a toll on those economy. But again, where we should have concern were things that has happened pre-COVID-19. That's where our concern should lie. For us to actually make a progress as a people, all hands needs to be on deck. We need to support the authorities that be. We need to support and then adhere to policies of government to help us make progress as a people. So for us to move from this stage to another, the efforts needs to be collective.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade Morgan Ocheko, for coming on TV, and you have said it all that for us to make progress, all hands should be on deck by supporting the authorities for a better Nigeria. Thank you very much for coming on TV and Business
welcome.
today.
Thank you very much.
And that's much we have for you today on TV and Business Daily. I am Chiwende Ostisiago, and don't forget that you can follow us on all our social media platforms, on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Do have a wonderful day, and bye for now.